Hello, good evening, good morning, good afternoon. This is that Millwall Podcast. My name's Mickey Simpson, and we do apologise. We seem to have not been around for a while. The world has changed since our last show. Her Majesty the Queen sadly died between our last show and now. And we've had, obviously, the element of mourning and everything else, which we'll tap into in a bit. But without further ado, let's welcome the boys onto the show. Joining me, as always, my partner in crime, the one and only Omer. How you doing, fella?
Hello, Mickey. I'm all right, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, good, mate. Good. All good. And without further ado, the football guru, the one and only, the football guru on both men and ladies football now, the one and only Kai Bennett.
Hello, mate. I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, good, mate. Good.
If he's the football guru, what am I, by the way? It's just out of interest, because, you know, my knowledge is better than his. So, come on.
You're the football oracle.
Interesting. No, I'll take it.
Yeah. You're the football oracle. He is, the football guru, and I'm just a pretty face. So, I think that probably gets us by to a degree. So, yeah. Anyway, look, stay with us. We'll be back straight after this, where we'll be kicking off part one. Welcome back to part one. Since our last show, we played Blackpool and we beat Blackpool 2-1. And then it went into international break, which we will tap onto in a while. But let's start with you, Omer. Your views on the Blackpool game.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a distant memory now. It feels like so much has happened, hasn't it? But obviously a 2-1 win. I mean, interesting atmosphere. I think that's probably more of a talking point that we could talk about tonight. Obviously, you know, we go 1-0 up. And then Blackpool get the equaliser in the first half. And then I think you could just feel it in the ground on the day. I mean, obviously, we won the game. Second half was much better performance, and you can't fault that. And obviously, we won the game 2-1 and managed to obviously get, you know, over the line. Afobe scored a goal. And, you know, he scored a couple now, hasn't he, this season, and seems to be firing. And hopefully that's something that can continue after the international break. But, yeah, I think for me, like, that overall, that kind of game and the feeling afterwards, the atmosphere in the ground, just it feels like it's on a knife edge. We've had this moments before under Rarrett, but even when it went 1-1, I heard murmurings of your football is shit, Gary, your football is shit. I think a lot of people agree with that, and I don't think, you know...
Booing.
There's some booing as well at half-time at 1-1. It's just weird vibe at the moment, isn't it, I think, in the den. And I think it's weird because if you look at our form, and he's right, I think he said it after the game, you know, if you look at our form at home and over the last two seasons, it's one of the best, if not in the league, maybe in the country. So it's a weird feeling, but I think ultimately it's not just the results, you know, obviously it's results business, but the form's not been great recently before that. But I think it's just the manner of the performances that a lot of people are getting fed up with seeing, really. And it's an interesting talking point, really. It'd be great to see what people think about it. Maybe to do something about it.
No, I totally agree with you. I mean, your pal obviously messaged us and said, you know, 6 points out of 9 in September. You know,
he was looking for bites there. He weren't optimist. I think he was looking for bites. And he's got a point, though, isn't he? I mean, if you look at things in the stages or whatever, you know, it is 2 wins, 1 defeat in September. But it's not all it reads, is it? You can spin any story in football, I suppose, and take. But
aren't we got more points now than what we did last season at this point?
I couldn't actually tell you. There you go, Kyle. No.
Weren't we on 10 or whatever, and we were on 11 or whatever, in it? We're just slightly above, aren't we?
Yeah, we've never been fast at the block, have we? We've never been that sort of team, have we, Kai?
No, we did last season. We didn't get our first win until actually it was against Blackpool on August 29th. So that was, I think, 6 games.
And then we went on that run, didn't we? So
Blackpool win again. Hopefully we can do it. But I mean, what is it? 50. I was reading a stat the other day. 57 points at home since the start of last season. Something that's quite impressive, isn't it? Like, you know, it's not to be sort of laughed at. I think I had us in the, as you say, I think it was the best home record in the country. So it's impressive. 57 points in probably about 27 games. So it's good stuff, but we just got to improve that away record and try and be a little bit more exciting at home as well. And I think he'll quite quickly get his fans back on side if he can do it.
it is boring football, though, isn't it, with Rowett? I mean, it's not something new. I mean, everywhere he's been, Birmingham, Derby, it's always been boring football. They always saying your football's shit.
Yeah.
You know, your football's shit. It's boring shit. I mean, is that because he wraps himself around a defensive-minded backroom staff, or is it just he's looking for something what probably will never be there? As in, he wants to play a style of football what's heavily defensive.
There are 10 English Premier League now.
Sorry, my Siri just started.
It's double-edged. I get what you're saying there, Mickey. It's double-edged, isn't it? Because, like, you know, we've finished 3 top half finishes and we're in the Championship, you know, and it's like, what can Millwall do in the Championship realistically? This is maybe our ceiling, but, you know, if there's a different angle or a different set of ideas or something different that is just, you know, compared to what we're getting at the moment, you feel like the grass might be growing on the other side. Reality is, it probably won't be. It's hard to say because historically in my lifetime, it's been Championship League One, you know, and that's been the life cycle. And it's like, well, how do we break the mold and get into the Premier League? What's got to be different? I don't think it will happen under Rowett because it is like, you know, stay in the games and, you know, try and edge games out. But I think the difference this season for me has been it's been a tough start away from home because we've had tough fixtures, and maybe if we played Sunderland, it might have been a different story. Might be a lot more positive now. Might be sitting on 16 points from 11 games and feeling a lot kind of a bit more rosy about things. But I think it's the manner of how we play, and also just we don't score a lot of goals, but can we expect to score loads in the Championship? How do you answer that question? It's the tricky one there.
Kai, you got an answer to that?
I think it's difficult. I mean, I was speaking to some family members the other day, and they were saying to me that, you know, I wouldn't mind if we were losing, you know, 3-1, 3-2 in games if we were playing exciting football. But ultimately, I think you'd probably end up getting bored of that as well. You know, it's about winning games of football. And I know obviously we do win a lot of games 1-0 or 2-1. We edge them out sort of thing. But sometimes 3 points in them sort of situations is the most important ones. There might be the sort of games we look back at the end of the season and think, yeah, it was lucky we got you know, across the line there because that was a valuable 3 points. So even though obviously I would like to see the football a little bit more exciting and a little bit maybe more on the front foot, maybe change the formation at home. I know I think it probably be something maybe the players and the management staff might work on over the international break. So, you know, maybe we might see something slightly different after it. You know, they might use the international break and the 2 weeks off to maybe do that, hopefully anyway.
I love your optimism.
This run though, like coming up to the World Cup, is huge, I think, for Rowett and our season. If you've got 11 games there, I believe it's you know, and it's Saturday, Tuesday, at least for the first 6 of them. And then you've got a week break between West Brom at home and Huddersfield away. And then you've got a Saturday, Tuesday again. And then you've got Preston away to wrap up, you know, in 12th of November. 11 games in the space of 6, you know, in a bit weeks. This is crunch time, I think, for him. And it's like, what can be achieved, or there's got to be, I think, at least from the club side and also from the manager side, realistic goal. We're thinking, you know, 11 games here, this is going to shape our season, and we are typically good at this point of the season onwards, like we're saying obviously for last season as well. What can we do? And you know, try and you got to set some sort of goals, I think, at least internally, that have, you know, got to be hit.
If you were directorship or, you know, strategic at Millwall, and you're sitting down in a meeting with Gary and you're going, right, we've got 11 games before the World Cup break. What would be your target for those 11 games?
I think it's 10 games, actually. Let me just confirm. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 10 games. That's what we do on this podcast.
So 10 games. So 10 games, potential maximum of 30 points. You're sitting there, Gary's sitting in front of you. What do you want?
You want to see playoff form. I think that's, for me, we want to achieve that. That's the ambition. You want to see top 10, top 6 form. So, you know, what is that? I mean, how do you quantify that? What, from a 46-game season?
25 and above?
So, no, that's too much from 30 points available. But you want to see, I think, 6 wins in there maybe out of 10, or 18 points on the board. So 5 wins, 3 draws and 2 defeats. I think you want to see some sort of form where you can get behind, especially if the fixture's starting to turn, I think you could say. The Championship, you can never predict the results, and we know that more than anyone. But I think, their games are coming up now, especially away from home. You've got to see us pick up a couple of wins in there, I feel like, as well. There's 10 games there. There's chances to pick up points away from home. The home form should look after itself. And, the odd blip we've had already this season. But it does, by and large, look after itself. But you want to see some performances on the road of encouragement. And I think you want to just ultimately get some points on the board as well, and get some comprehensive performances in there. I think, 75 points out of a 138 point season. So what's that? Almost half, maybe a little bit above. So I think, anything above 15 points up to 20 points in that catchment, you've got to be happy with. And that's how you got to look at it, I think, especially these next 10 games before the World Cup. You won't be surprised. Madge lost their job last week. Morrison lost his job in the Championship at Cardiff. Unlucky, Steve. I hope we didn't ruin your day a couple of weeks ago as well. But, I think that's it now. It's like, I think you've got to look at it as a 10-game block now where you've got to see progression, and I think everyone's got to get behind it.
So, what do you want? Minimum of 18 points out of that?
What, me, sorry? Or Kai?
Yeah. That's a question I asked you a minute ago.
I said 18 points.
Talking about 138 points.
This is it. Let's work it out. You need to mathematically work out in my head, mate. So 18 points.
18.
Anything above
18 points.
From 30.
You want 18 points out of 30. Is that what you would say to Gary? This is what the minimum I'm expecting.
6 wins, that is. 6 wins out of 10, or 5 wins, like I said, in 3 draws. That's what I'd want that from next 10 games. If you want to show the ambition of we're going in the right direction.
Kai, you're in that meeting. What would you want from him?
I want 21. I know you're all gonna laugh, but it's not like something we haven't done before. I mean, last season
you're gonna say it's not hard there, weren't you? You're gonna say it's not hard.
No, I was gonna say it's not hard, but then I thought I'd rephrase that. It is hard, obviously, it's Championship, but last season we won 5 on the trot. If we can do that, if we can put a winning run of 4 or 5 on the trot again, like we did last season, that's 15 points. And then, you've got 5 games left. If you can pick up another couple of wins in that, you could quite easily get 21 points. So, no, not easily, but, you could do it. So that's what I'd like to see 20 above 20.
It's an easier run now, isn't it?
Like 15 points would get you 6th place right now. You'll be in and around it. So, and that's from the start of the season. You won't see a record high points total to get in the playoffs this year. You have 3 or 4 teams run away with it, and the rest will take points off each other. So I think you've got 13 points from 10 first 10. Build on that. If it's less than 13 after the next 10 games, I'll be surprised if he's still here, I'll be honest. That's how I feel about it at the moment.
He won't leave though, will he?
Well, the club, what did the club want? But, we want to see there's something building here. And I think this year, we say every year, is a chance. And if we want to be up there, we've got some good players in there. You want to see good performances too. That's also, I think, an important judgment here. If we've got 13 points in the next 10 games, but we've scored 15 goals or 20 goals and been unlucky with referee decisions and other factors come into it, then you might be like, oh, he's a bit unlucky. But I think we are where we are, and that's rightly so at the moment. So, and we want better and more, don't we?
So are we saying November the 12th is the 12th, isn't it? Yeah, November the 12th is basically Judgment Day. That, if he doesn't get the points between now and then the fans will probably definitely turn by then. And potentially the board might too.
Well, you get another pre-season, don't you? Because it's 5 weeks off away from football. And then we come back 17th of December. It wouldn't surprise you if a lot of clubs decide to do that, roll the dice. A lot of players won't be away in international duty and the Championship. It's the World Cup, isn't it? Players will probably have, 2 weeks off maybe and be at home. And then it's to build up again to the 17th of December against Luton away. So it would not surprise me to see clubs pull the trigger and then look to replace managers. It'd be a bit of a merry-go-round. It wouldn't surprise me if we sack Rowett. I'm not saying he's going to go. I'm saying that's what I want, but obviously results will dictate what happens. And then, if someone else gets sacked from Stoke City again, or, another club sacked the manager, Steve Bruce sacked that manager, it wouldn't surprise you to see a merry-go-round happen where one manager sacked from another club and then takes another job that's been vacated. I can see something happening like that in the November-December window.
As long as we don't get Steve Bruce.
Get Fat Sam in. Get Big Sam in. Come on, I'll take him.
Yeah. I would probably take Fat Sam. Or I think he's probably been out of the game a little bit too long now. But again, what you always say is, I think Neil Warnock would rattle those players right up.
He's not a long-term option, but he's a short-term get results.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you just need someone to get you into that push to the Premiership, don't you? That's what you need. But I suppose my other question to the Oracle and the Guru. Who's to blame? Are the players incapable of playing in the positions that he wants, or is his formation? We're coming to his substitution time in a little bit with that, or is it the fact that the positions what he wants to play just won't work with our team? I mean, who's at fault? Is it the players, or is it the management wanting them to play there? Go on, Kai.
First.
I to be honest, if I'm being honest with you, I don't like to. It's a difficult one. I know, it's when football teams aren't doing well, the first one to get the brunt is the manager. It always is, and I think it probably will always be like that. Sometimes I don't like, so I almost like the blame to be shared, because I think that both could be doing better. I think if you blame the manager too much, you take the heat off the players, which makes the players too comfortable. And that's why maybe the players almost drop their levels, because they think, oh, we can take a break now because they're not going to blame me anyway.
I agree with that to a degree. I mean, Joe said on the show, that Bury doesn't like playing out of position, doesn't feel comfortable playing there, doesn't feel that he can do his normal style of football. When he plays out of position, he's on the wrong foot, etc., etc., etc. And I suppose that's the same with possibly a few of the other players too. But they are professional football players, potentially on, 8, 9, 10 grand plus a week. We're given 5. We say anything above 5 grand a week. So realistically, they should be able to play football, surely. I can understand if he suddenly starts putting our attackers in goal, then okay, maybe not. But, someone left or centre midfield or something like that, if they're a midfielder, then it's not too far out of their position, is it?
I can't get over the fact that we play, a formation where we ask the likes of Jake Cooper to have loads of touches of the ball. That's what bothers me when I watch our side. We're playing this setup where defenders get a lot of the ball and have to then play forward passes, and then you watch them play, and they're obviously they're footballers. They're a million times better than what me and us three are here. So, but as someone that watches it, you watch like that happen. It's like, why are we overcomplicating things? Why don't we just play a bit more simpler? I feel like at times. And then you've got someone like Fleming, who is clearly a cut above a lot of our players technically, and we're not really playing him in his right position as well, I feel like. But again, it's just my opinion, and I'm not the one qualified to make them decisions or get paid to do it. But as a fan and as an opinion, like, I just think we overcomplicate things a lot. And you watch Murray Wallace pick up the ball; he's a bit better than Cooper, to be fair. But why are we not just like getting the onus away from the centre halves on the ball? Why don't we drop the 5 at the back and try and do something a bit more different? I feel like he alluded to the fact that he wanted to try and change it after Blackpool, before Blackpool, sorry, and go to back 4. I mean, it works in the end and we got the result, but I do feel like it's just he's persevering with something that I feel like just won't get us to where we want to be. It'll be enough to get us results and keep us where we are in that mid-table top 12 position, but if we want to do something different and try and get above where we want to be now, I think we just need to mix something up and try something different and roll the dice, I feel like.
I think you're right. I think you're probably right. Go on, Kai.
I was just gonna raise a point first of all. I was going to ask you just a little chat between the three of us, but obviously Zian Fleming.
Yeah, there's no one else here, Kai. Go on.
So obviously Zian Fleming actually got the goal the other day. His form's been pretty impressive. Well, his performance has been pretty impressive. Obviously, if he can back that up with goals and assists. We were just talking about the World Cup and players going there. Do you think Fleming could be a player that could be going to the World Cup if he ups his performances?
Well, for Holland,
not ups his performances, but
is Holland in the World Cup?
Holland, yeah, they're in there. Yeah,
he's not going to get a look in from the Championship. I agree with what you're saying, and his form could pick up. And do you know what? Like I've been so impressed with him the last 2 or 3 games. I weren't sure what to expect, honestly, and I know everyone's like, we spent money for him. But obviously, it's like when he got injured as well, you're like, well, what are we going to get when he does play? But you can see he is like a few seconds in front of our players, in my opinion. And, even that chance in the second half where did he hit the post when he dragged it into the near post?
Yeah.
You can just see like he has these moments where he knows exactly what he wants to do with it before anyone else. And I think that you can see he's got a moment of quality that I think will elevate him above a lot of our players. And ultimately, if we play well and he plays well, we'll both progress. But if he continues to play well and we don't play well, he won't be here in a year or two, it feels like. But I do feel like I don't know if he will play for Holland, mate, but it wouldn't surprise me in a few years' time if he's a Premier League player or goes into Europe. It wouldn't surprise me to see him turn out for them one day, but you never know, do you?
He's a serious player, isn't he?
No, that's it. I mean, what was your thoughts on Saturday? Obviously, go back to Blackpool. We were talking where he dropped Bart. Did you think, oh, fucking hell, we're going to lose this before it even started? Like, probably a high percentage of the fan base did.
I didn't think we were going to lose it. I didn't think Bart deserved to be dropped. I think he just kind of thought go for something different, didn't he? And that was ultimately what he said there, you know. And he said performances haven't been great. I think Bart's been a victim of just the defensive mistakes we've kept making. Bart, for me, hasn't made any high-profile mistakes. You know, he's got one or two in him. I remember the game against Wickham during lockdown, you know, where he gets closed down and, you know, the player scores. Like, he's got that odd moment in him and they're few and far between. But ultimately, this guy is like, for the last 3 seasons, has been a rock in that net for us. And I think it's very harsh. I wouldn't be surprised if he came back inside, you know, in a couple of weeks' time. I think it's just like a temporary switch to try and get some results. Or it felt a bit desperate from where I felt like pre-game. I think Long's a good goalkeeper, by the way, but he doesn't compare to Bart when it comes to shot stopping. But
he can kick a ball though, can't he?
I think he got a touch. Yeah, he can. His distribution is much better than Bart's, and that's the only downside to Bart. That's why Bart plays for us. You know, if his Bart's kicking was better, he wouldn't be playing for Millwall. Like, you know, he's almost a complete keeper in that sense, then, isn't he? But I think with Long, like even with the goal we conceded, I felt like maybe Bart might have done something a bit different there. Like personally, I think Long's a good keeper, like I said, and it was at close range and hard to criticise him for it. But I do think Bart might have offered something different in that moment to maybe stop it, because that's, you know, what Bart's capable of. But
Bart's good at close range, isn't he? Like jumping up, jumping down.
Yeah, even long range,
left to right, all of that.
He's a shot stopper. Yeah. He's like, you know, of the ilk of David Ford for me. Like David Ford was a great shot stopper, and Bart's better than him, a lot better than him. And you know, but like, I just think like,
oh, that's a bold statement there, isn't it? Eh?
He is, but also David Ford's my favourite all-time Millwall player, like in my generation, really, like because for how long he's been playing for us in my time. So like, you know, for me to say that, like, but he's a better keeper. There's no qualm in that. But
there's a question for the listeners.
He is the better keeper overall, mate, 100%. But yeah, I just think like it was a bit desperate, it felt like, but he got the result, so can't knock it. If we didn't get the result, what would we say? I don't know. It would be more pressure, isn't it? I suppose.
Yeah, strong possibility, but yeah. So Blackburn even on Saturday. How are you feeling about that, Kai?
Yeah, no, it should be, be a difficult game. I mean, I've still got nightmares about Blackburn last year going up there, and then it's
with the snow,
snowing. Yeah, but I've looked at the fixture. I've looked at the availability, and Ben Brereton Diaz is available, so the game will go ahead as planned. But I think it's gonna be a tough game. Obviously, we struggle on the road. What?
Yeah, unless it snows.
Yeah. Yeah, or Ben Brereton Diaz gets injured in the warm-up, one of the two.
Allegedly, yeah.
So I think obviously we haven't been great on the road. I think in 11 now. But I think that every record has to be broken, doesn't it? So it'd be a perfect place to go up. I mean, what was the rearranged game? We didn't have a single shot there last year, did we? So it'd be nice.
Wasn't that the one we talked about in the Naught NXG or whatever it's called? What was it called? What's it?
Yeah. XG. We had an XG of 0.
Yeah, that's it.
That's quite something. Just not even it's a crazy game, because obviously we had no shots and somehow Blackburn didn't manage to find a way through. So it was a bit of one of them ones that you've drawn the game, but it feels like a win. But no, hopefully better on Saturday, and we'll turn up.
What's your thoughts on Saturday's game? Are you going out there?
I'm not, but I am just processing in my head that I've been to 9 of the last 11 away games and we've not won any of them. When you just go, you don't process it in your heads. Like, I can't believe it. Like, yeah, you're right. We've not won since Reading away, and even then, that was a damp squid when Cooper scored. Right? Was that the game Cooper scored in?
Yeah, Cooper scored. That was the 5. That was the 5th win in a row, wasn't it?
Jesus, bloody hell!
What was that, March?
We're shit.
There we go. It's official. It's official.
Yeah, I mean,
it is though. It is when you start looking at the stats.
It's crazy.
We've got access to a great stat partner, and Kai will tell you their name in a minute. And you look at these stats and you start going in and you look at, the away form, the home form, and you start looking at it and you go, fuck, we really are shit. And you can't understand you can't understand what rare it is. I mean, I watched a film earlier. It's an old film called Moneyball, where Brad Pitt about baseball, where the Oakland Athletics, where they basically start changing the game and start going on a stack-based game rather than, the money-making, sort of a Jed Wallace rather than a David Beckham as such. Do you know what I mean? And I don't know, watching that, I watched that this morning, watching that just made me think, is Rowett looking at, the pound shop, sort of the pound shop way of getting to the Prem rather than the way what a lot of teams seem to have spent this season, big money, to make a push for it.
That was more niche. That was more nuanced niches. Nuanced.
Yeah, that was 2001, 2002. It wasn't until the Red Sox done it, but
their story was like, if a player has one arm but he can throw the ball as fast as anyone, then they can still throw the ball. So that was kind of the logic there. So like, we always say about some of our players are like, if they were good enough, they wouldn't be here. Like I said that, but even just then earlier, but I think that was just working with the budget they got. I think the comparison to that Moneyball theory is Brentford, for example. They use the stats-based kind of thing for recruiting players, and they also sell players when they know they've reached their value. So they put that monetary value on it, and they'll sell them after that. And there's clubs that try to do that, and you can see it in Europe, and there's a comparison for it there. But yeah, back to Saturday coming up. Blackburn have just been a bit kind of, I think they're top of the league after 3 games, scoring goals for fun. Everyone was like, wow, this could be the year they kind of kick on, even despite the whole transfer rumours looming over Brereton Diaz's heads. I think them keeping him's huge. I think they'll also be looking at these next 10 games and thinking, right, what can we do? A lot of clubs will be doing the same thing, I feel like. It's a tough place to go, isn't it? I don't know. I think they've won 3 of their 5 at home. Their form's dipped the last 5. I think they've won 2 just like us. It's probably going to be a draw. I'll take it, though. I'll take a draw at a place like Blackburn and try and pick up wins away from breaking home the likes of Rotherham, who are even doing better than, I suppose, this season so far. But I think, Sorry?
Managerless now, aren't they?
Yeah, Merton Bourne's gone to Derby, hasn't he? I think, I'd take a draw Saturday, to be honest. But just see, I think this is sort of games, like I said, when we went to Norwich, like, I think you'll see Fleming come into these sort of games. I think this is where these are the difference makers for us that, can have that effect on the game. So I wouldn't be surprised if we put in a good performance and, get that kind of away counter-attacking win that we all desire. But, I'll take a draw if you said to me now, right now.
Kai?
I'd probably go with what Omer said. I mean, I'd like to see us break this away record. I think if we can break it, I think it'll be like, remember a couple of years ago when we went to Harris and we broke that away record, where we hadn't won on a Saturday at 3 p.m. for 18 months, and then we went and won the next 6 away games.
5.
Like that. 5 away games. So it was something. I think it was like we won to beat Barnsley, beat all these teams we never beat away, and I think once we break it, I think we'll probably turn a corner and we'll probably be quite good. It's just the question is, can we then pick up the home record? Because the thing with us is we're either really good away or we're really good at home. We don't really have a balance of both. We're either, you know what I mean? When Rout first came in, we weren't so good at home. We were really good away. And now we were really good at home, not very good away. So I reckon I'd take a draw, but I think we'll nick it. I think we'll win 1-0.
I'm always hopeful. Like, I agree with you. Like, you always want us to do it. And if I was going up there on Saturday, I'm glad I'm not, but I think the train strikes, I can't be asked to drive up there. I think, I'm always hopeful, but I just think take the draw and try and pick up points later on in the 10-game spell.
I'm going 2-0.
To Blackburn?
2-0 to Millwall. I've just got a feeling that they're just going to fire on all cylinders on Saturday, and they're just going to go for it. I just think they're going to.
All them 2 weeks at Calmont Road is just going to pay off now, the international break, yeah?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. No, I think definitely it will be 2-0 Millwall, a Phobie, and it'll either be Cooper or no. I'm going to go Fleming and a Phobie. There we go.
Yeah, I like it.
So yeah, right. That's the end of part 1. We're going to be back in part 2. We are going to be talking about England, but it will feel as if we're talking about Millwall. So join us again, straight after this. Right then, welcome back, part 2. No winning 5. Relegated from their group at the moment. And you know the way it's going to work out. Scotland's going to do well, get promoted or do well, and they'll have another bragging rights over us. You went to Milan this week, Omer.
I did.
Football shit. Italy all right?
Yeah, it's all right. A bit like a BTEC Paris, but a bit better than Paris. If people went there before, they'll know what I mean. Yeah, it's an interesting place. But
did you go to McDonald's?
I did go to McDonald's.
Have they still got the Man United? It was a Bayern Munich game, their 99 final game where they come back. It was Bayern Munich, wasn't it? Where they come back.
United, you mean?
Yeah, United and Bayern Munich. Yeah, there was when I last went there. I went there years ago, but it had early 2000s. I went, and they had a massive wall in McDonald's, and it's got the picture of the goal with a photo of Ole Gunnar fucking scoring into that goal.
No, I don't recall.
Pissed.
I mean, yeah, I was about to say it was 2 a.m. And I had the flight in 2 hours' time after that to leave for the airport. So it was a bit.
Oh, if you were in the airport, no, I'm on about it was in Milan.
No, this was at the end of the trip in Milan, and I had an hour's kit to look forward to, and then get back up and go to the airport to come home. But yeah, I mean, I was more cultured than that. If anyone's wondering, I was eating loads of pasta and pizza and spaghetti, and drinking loads of Perrier. So
I've seen the photos. So, yeah.
But before you go, you've got to go to McDonald's at least once when you go to foreign countries, right? So
Adam was just eating McDonald's all the time. He wasn't cultured, but Omer was at least cultured.
That's it. But no, it's a class trip. The game is, that was always the dampener, and it was always going to be that way. I made a joke when I came onto the call with you guys before we start recording. I watch right ball week in, week out, and watch us get turned over. Or put in poor performances, then I go and watch Southgate ball and it doesn't get any better. So yeah, I try and use England as an escapism to get them away days I want abroad, and it's just as shit as watching Millwall the football. So yeah, wasn't surprised. It's just boring, isn't it? And here's me saying all this. I'll still be at Wembley tomorrow night to watch England-Germany. So yeah, there you go. That's the kind of cruel things I like to put myself through watching Millwall and my country.
Kai.
Yeah, I mean, it was a weird game, wasn't it? Because I thought I actually missed the first 15 minutes. I thought the game started at 8. Bit of a schoolboy error, that. But when I got on there, England had a decent spell from about 15 to 30th minute where they knocked the ball around well. But they're quite similar to Millwall in the way that they have a lot of possession, but don't do much with it. That makes sense. I mean, the centre-backs touch the ball probably the most times, don't they, for England? I mean, they don't really. I thought Eric Dyer actually played quite well. I thought he looked okay. Mm-hmm. But then again, I don't see how Southgate thinks that he's gonna improve this side when he's picking players. I mean, I know Maguire's always been good for England, but he hasn't started a game for United. I think something like 6 weeks. So how does he expect him to come straight into the England side and be starting and doing well? Players that are starting week in, week out, they're the ones that should be playing for England, not the ones that have been on the bench all the time.
Apart from Maguire, that team on paper is a very strong team.
Yeah, but then you got other creative players on the bench that maybe could be in that side. I don't know. I think even Tomori, for example, that's his home stadium, the San Siro. He plays for AC Milan. He doesn't get on or doesn't play. Tammy Abraham plays against the Italian defenders week in, week out against, these sort of players for Roma. I'm not saying they should have started, but, the setup we play, you're limited to what you can play. And then you've got Harry Maguire playing, and it's like, yeah. I mean, look, there was the whole kind of meme online was he saying it's a step in the right direction. I don't think it was going forwards, but we did have a lot of the ball. But then lapse of the concentration, and I think we played them on sides. The whoever this guy scored a goal in the name escapes me, and then you're punished, and that's the kind of level you're up against. And I mean, the only consolation that is, I suppose, at least I can go to more obscure countries for the Group B games, because Group A was always the elite clubs. But yeah, it's just I don't know. It's England, isn't it? You've got an uninspiring coach who got the job done well for us in tournament football, and he keeps us in games, very much like Gary Rowett.
Very much like Gary Rowett.
Then it's like, what do you want to see? Do you want to watch these games to get entertained, or do you want to watch these games to get results? But the results have not been there since the last 5-6 games now, and it's concerning. It's interesting what happens tomorrow. We'll know.
Yeah, I mean, Yeah, this time tomorrow night we'll know all about it. But I mean, it's very okay. Gary Rowett hasn't got us to the playoffs as such, but Gary Rowett's got us in the top half of the table, more of an established championship club. Southgate, semi-finals of the World Cup, finals of the Europa or European Championship, and now we're playing dog shit, which is really worrying when we're probably 8 weeks maybe, if that, away from the World Cup in Qatar. And again, we know that Qatar's going to be hard. It's going to be too hot. We're not going to play well out there. It's going to be fucking an absolute fucking nightmare. But similarities between the two managers. They're both very, 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 very defensive players and very defensive minded coaches.
Mm-hmm.
Are they looking to play systems what their players can't play?
Well, these are elite players for England, the elite and elite. And a lot of these players do play in them sort of setups. But I just think it's just too defensive. It's like, you wait for the ball to come to your team and then you have so many defensive players. And I think especially with England's case, you've got these creative players on the bench like a Grealish, and you're playing and you've got Mason Mount even on the bench, for example, who's flattered to see with an English shirt, fair enough. And this season has actually not been in that great form for Chelsea. But if you ask yourself the question of you've got all these players defensively, then when it comes to attacking, you've got two midfielders in Rice and Bellingham. Bellingham got forward, to be fair to him, but normally it's Rice and Phillips. If Karen Phillips was fair, he probably would have played. Then you're kind of sacrificing so much defensively, similar for Millwall in that sense. Then when you go forward, you've got players isolated up top, and then you're asking a lot from them to, kind of have their moments in the game. I think our best performance for England that I've seen under Southgate when I went to Spain against, when we played in Seville against Spain, first half was 3-0 up after 40 minutes. Rashford's got 2, I think, and Sterling got 1, or it was along those lines. And on the counter-attack, you had Kane, Sterling, and Rashford, and all three of them were in their top form at the time. And you just their moments just paid off. It was counter-attacking football. If you want to dominate games, it's the wrong manager, I feel like. It's interesting that you say they're both defensive players because they both were, weren't they? Obviously, Southgate for Middlesbrough and Villa and stuff like that, and Ray obviously for likes of Charlton, Birmingham, and whatever. I don't know
if they both missed penalties or not. I don't know.
It's just uninspiring, isn't it? I think the World Cup will play out as it should do. We'll probably get out of the group stages, probably, and then probably get a penalty shoot out the feet in the quarterfinal of the World Cup.
I would probably say it could be either an African or a South American team what potentially will be in the final there
because of the heat and stuff. You mean?
Yeah,
the conditions. You never know. I fancy a South American team. I fancy Argentina.
I do too.
I think Messi's last song, that would be my guess and prediction. And they seem to be on top form after winning the Copa America last year. So wouldn't surprise me if that happens. But yeah, I'm glad I'm not going Qatar because it's not worth the money. And also the performance will probably be uninspiring. I'll sit there watching it in my warm weather coat, or my cold weather coat, should I say, in December. Probably in a big either freeze my nuts off. But there you go. That's what we're going to, and that's what we've got for the World Cup, haven't we?
Kai, you think any different?
No, I sort of agree. I just don't understand. I mean, he always chooses to bring that extra defensive player, doesn't he? When realistically, you leave that extra defensive player at home and bring a player like Maddison, who's been playing brilliantly for Leicester in a side that's struggling. They are struggling a bit. They are massively struggling, but he's still getting goals and assists. And if you bring a player that's in top form, they're the ones that are going to be able to transfer it over to international if anyone is. So I don't understand why he doesn't bring up out of that.
I don't know, but I think that you could put those England players in Millwall shirts and play under Gary Rowett's formation, and I still don't think we'd fucking score goals.
I mean, realistically, they are elite players, so they should be able to. I mean, we always ask the question: do you reckon we have good enough players to play Gary Rowett's formation? I mean, realistically, there's no one better than the England. Well, there is, but there's no one better in the England setup than the players in there. So they're on foot then, fortunes, and they are the best that England have got. Realistically, they should be good enough to play in the setup Gareth Southgate wants them to play in. But it's just, I think in that case, I'd probably blame more the manager for his tactics rather than the players not being good, like players not being able to play in the formation.
How do you also get them to be up for a game? This is the thing you got to ask yourself. I think this is also what it boils down to. And all. Like June, for example, the 3 fixtures we had, we got turned over by Hungary, didn't we? I think 3-0 at home, or whether it was 4-0, I can't remember.
4-0,
and then you go to Germany and we lost. I think we drew 1-1. And then there was another game in there that we also lost. The team escapes me at the moment. And that the Germany game was just a penalty. How do you get these players to be, you're playing the same players that have played last 4 years now under Southgate. How do you get them inspired to play for England in the middle of September when they know they're going back to competitions bigger than maybe more elite than the Nations League, when they go back to their Premier League clubs and play for Chelsea in the Champions League and, all this sort of stuff. So it's a hard one because, I don't think the players overly care, to be honest. That's also.
I think that's. And
when it comes to the World Cup, you hope they'll be more inspired and hopefully more informed, and they've not got a whole full season on their belts, and kind of maybe nursing fatigue or maybe got some injuries to contend with. It'll be interesting to see how these next kind of 8 weeks unfold in the Premier League and in England in general, and all the other players that are going to international duty. Will we start to see players kind of shirk away from games or try and make sure they're fit for the World Cup? It's going to be an interesting kind of dynamic we're going to have there. So it'd be interesting how it unfolds.
Be interesting to see how it affects the leagues around the world.
So,
what I mean? Because I think certain players will back off in the Premiership because they don't want to get injured before going to a World Cup. They don't want to, be sidelined in any way, shape, or form. Players like Messi definitely won't want to get injured because it's probably his last ever World Cup, to be honest. And Ronaldo, he's going to want to play more and not get injured. So, yeah, I don't know.
What I can understand is what Omer was just saying. Omer was just saying that, what do you do to get them up? And I think it's a really good point. But for me, the players shouldn't need any sort of motivation to get up. They're playing for their country. It doesn't really get much better than that, does it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but it doesn't mean the same as what it used to, though, does it? I mean, if you had a team, if you had 11 Championship players playing for England, I guarantee they'd be more up for it than the Premiership.
You get outclassed by the opposition still, but they at least show the pride, I suppose. And this is it. Yeah. These players that are playing for England and gone away for international duty, whilst they're away, the players that have not been called up in international duty, their club mates are probably in Dubai and living their best life. It's a weird dynamic, and international football in general is going that way because all the temptations and the money in the game, and it's like there'll be players that would have fainted injury that didn't want to go to this camp, and that's always been the case for a lot of major international sides. So I don't know, it's a deep root problem, but other clubs, other international teams seem to do better than us for that, and they've got the same players that have the same problem. So I don't know. The World Cup will be interesting. It'll be interesting how it unfolds. I'm sure
that's it.
We'll talk about it for another day, I suppose. But yeah, you see how it unfolds.
Yeah, maybe we'll do a deeper thing into there. So look, we're coming to the end of this show. Before we do, obviously we finish with things. Kai, you got any points you want to raise? Lioness had a good win today, didn't they?
Yeah, it was a good win. Yeah, really good win. 6-2. They're doing well.
So yeah, they scored 4 goals in 10 minutes?
Something like that. Yeah, 4 goals in 15 minutes, I believe.
Maybe we should get them and the under 21 team, put them together, mate, and play our main 11. We might actually win games going forward. So yeah. Omer, you got anything you want to say?
No, nothing left to add, mate. Pleasure doing the show, and hopefully we're back consistently now going forward for the next 10 games at least.
Yeah, no, we'll be back. Two things I've got, or moans to a degree. One's more of a warning. Be careful if you're on Instagram. There's an account called Millwall Daily. Whether or not it's been hacked or whether or not it's just a scam as such. But yeah, just if you're following it, don't answer any messages from it. Because it looks as if they're trying to hack your account or take over your account. That's it from us for another episode. We will be back later on this week. And thank you very much for listening. Make sure to subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, thanks very much. Just before you press stop, make sure you press that subscribe and tick the notification bell every time we put a video up. You will get it. That's it from us. Laters.